Hello, lovely people. It's Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room. I hope you're all doing well. I've had a pretty good week. I had midweek to midweek week off. I didn't go anywhere in the end. I just potted around here and worked on my Kaffe Fassett quilt. It's hand quilting, so it's not finished yet. I'll show it to you later on. And today I made a bag. I have a friend whose logo is of herself holding a bunch of broccoli. She has a health, what do you call it? Like a health and fitness coach business. And when it's just a cute picture of her holding a head of broccoli. And for some reason, it popped into my head that I should make her a tote bag with broccoli on the front. So that's what we're going to watch first, and then I'll come back and talk to you about all the small stuff.
Golden sunlight. If I'm going with you, I know we'll get to the other side. Sinking in, I know this feels right. Catching a breeze, love moving through me like a wildfire, like a wildfire.
Last time we talked, you had nothing to say. You chose to walk, give what we had away. I hope you get what you're looking for, but babe, with me, you close the door. I really
Now that my broccoli is ready, I'm so pleased with that. It's funny how the little white dots on the eyes just give it all the extra character. So I'm just going to go with my usual tote bag dimensions. I've cut 2 denim squares, 20 inches. I'm not using jeans, this is just yardage, but it was a remnant with some damage in it, so I just have made sure to avoid the damage when I cut out the pieces. And I've cut my 3-inch boxed bottoms as well. And this is going to be the lining, just a really boring green. Same size, same cuts in the corners. I have pink webbing because why not? Because it's going to have this pink on the outside. So 2 pieces of 1-inch wide polyester webbing that are 24 inches long. I've cut a piece for a pocket to go on the inside. So I just picked a decent number for the width of the pocket, and I'll probably end up dividing it into 2 sections so that when the person who gets this bag uses it, the stuff won't flap about in there. I've noticed that if you make a wide pocket in a tote bag and it doesn't have a divider down the middle, it gapes and it's just annoying and gets in the way. So I cut it twice the height it needs to be, because it's going to be folded like that. So that's going to be the top of the pocket. I don't want my pocket inside to be too big either, because then you're like having a hard time getting to the bottom of it. So that's roughly the size of my internal pocket. And then this was just going to be an applique, but I decided instead to make it into an outside pocket. So I cut one of my lining pieces the same size as this. I'm going to put them right sides together, leave a turning gap, turn it right side out, press it, and then sew it onto the front of the bag. And so I think it would make a good pocket for a cell phone, maybe on the outside. Yeah, I think this is going to look cute. So I think maybe I'll just start with that step now. This pink dyed denim is a little bit stretchy, but I think should be fine, and putting this lining on the back will stabilize it as well. You can probably see my iron cord there, but rather than put it across in front of me, between me and the sewing machine, I've put it over there because I have all my power outlets on my right. I'll say this is the neatest bit of applique I've ever done. I'm really pleased with that. Okay, let's put that together. I'll make a little mark with my friction pen just there so that I don't go all the way around by mistake. Trim my corners, get rid of some of that bulk. If you guys could see the state of the carpet in here, it's terrible. Definitely overdue for vacuuming. Yes, I didn't leave a very large hole, and I was forgetting it was going to probably be a little bit stiff to pull through the hole because of that applique. It was just the Heat and Bond Light, so it's not as heavy as the Ultra Hold. Now, if I'd been thinking ahead, I would have pressed my seam allowances in before I did that. I think it'll be all right. So there's my broccoli pocket. It's still got the gap at the bottom, but that'll get closed up when I sew the pocket onto the front of the bag. Next thing, let's just do the internal pocket. I say let's, but you know, it's just me here. I don't know, I always find it kind of funny when YouTubers say we, and they're like, I'm just wondering whether they mean we, or do they really just mean I? Maybe it's just them doing it all. Maybe they're trying to sound more professional, but hey, I'm willing to admit that I am no professional. So with my pocket, I folded it right sides together. I've sewn along, left a gap, and then the rest of it. Nice doing it that way because you get all the raw edges hidden inside. Another bit of ironing, get that kind of looking nice and crisp. That's all ready to go. Again, there's a gap at the bottom, but that'll get closed up when that gets sewn on. I don't want it too high, don't want it too low. I do want it centered. I'm just going to get a ruler so that I know it is. Oh boy, I don't have space here. There we go. Move the sewing machine out the way, Nicola. Okay, now I can actually see the edge of the fabric. So probably 4 inches down from the top. And then that's the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, it isn't. It's not the middle. That's not right at all. I've been using a 2.8 stitch length, but I think I'm going to go up to a 3.5, putting the pocket on because this is bulky and I want it to be looking good. Actually, I might switch out to my walking foot. I'm going to put a little bit of this pink denim behind my walking foot because otherwise it can sometimes sit at a weird angle and tip and my needle breaks. So my line went a little off just here. Don't know whether to leave it or not. Do I maybe leave it look a little bit rustic? a little bit broccoli-ish. If I unpick it, then I'm going to have a mess elsewhere. Yep, I think I'm going to leave it. I am going to give it another iron quickly. Yep, we're going to go with a slapdash look. While I have this piece here, I'm going to add my handles, and first I'm going to just zigzag along here. I don't always do that, but I think it's a good idea because they can be a bit fraying-ish, those webbings. All right, let's put a pin in here. This is really thick denim. This bag should last for years. Very, very sturdy. What I normally do is measure 3 inches out from the center. And then attach the strap just on the outside of the pin, like that. And it's good to leave a little bit of an overlap there, so it's not too small of an amount in your seam allowance. And of course, make sure you're not twisting your handle, because that's no fun. Kind of baste it on. This part isn't really for strength, although it does help with that. It's just to keep it in place when the bag goes together. The front is ready. There's my back panel. Put those aside for a minute. Wait a second. Sensible next stage would be putting the strap onto this back panel, wouldn't it? Now that bit's ready. Oh, don't want my lining on its side, do I? I think that crease that's down the middle is actually in the center, because that was probably the fold of the fabric. Yep. I think I'm going to add a crisper fold. My iron. Yes, now it's nice and easy to see. And then I can fold this as well. My center part. I think I'll just do this one 4 inches down as well. I'm going to sew 3 sides, and then I will do a vertical line. I don't think I want to divide it in half. I might make more of like a pen pocket on one side, something skinny, something wider. Because I'm going to be stitching over it, I'm going to risk the friction pen. I've been a little bit disillusioned with the friction pens lately, because I've noticed there have been some lines reappearing on my work where I was a bit careless with them, and they were on the right side of the project. So how big is my pocket? It's about 9 inches, so I think maybe a 2.5 inch pocket. Not sure how straight my edge is. I'm not trusting it. So maybe what I'll do is I'll line up this line with the top of the pocket, and then just eyeball the pen pocket like that. Okay. I think I'm happy with that. So yeah, I will go along there, and then normally what I'll do is I'll start it there and go up, because I don't want to start there and then end up with a bubble of fabric at the bottom. Makes sense in my head anyway. That's my line ironed off, and I have 1 wide pocket and 1 narrow pocket, which makes me happy. So I might as well carry on with the back of the bag, because I like to put the pocket towards the back, and I've got a definite back and front on this thing. I'm going to put the right side of my lining to the right side of my denim. A bit of pinning. Not too much. Shouldn't be necessary. That one's ready. And so that I can sew efficiently and just go from one to the next, I'm going to attach this one to this side. Right sides together, match up seams. Let's see, how am I going to do this? Hang on a minute. Okay. I'm going to push my seam allowances out just where I'm doing the seaming, but it'll all come together fine when it's done, even though this is all wanting to go that way right now because the denim is so much stiffer than the cotton. Match up my seams. Once you've pinned it, you can see whether those are matching up. They're looking pretty good at the moment. And same on the other side. Sometimes I sew this and just leave them both facing that way. Sometimes I'll flip one way and one the other. Don't think it really matters. So I always cut my fabric with a cutter, rotary cutter, mat and ruler, so it's usually pretty accurate. Well, it's accurately cut. It doesn't always stay that way once I start manipulating the fabric. I've made loads and loads of these bags, and sometimes you get a wonky bit. You can usually cover up all the evidence inside. When you turn it right side out, it all looks fine. I also like pinning perpendicular to the edge because sometimes I end up pinning on one side and sewing on the other. Ouch! What would a sewing session be without stabbing myself with a pin? So if you end up pinning on that side and sewing that side, you can still see the heads of the pins sticking out to grab them when you come to them so that you don't sew over them. Ouch again! Oh, good grief. Don't bleed on your project, Nicola. That would not do. I was so happy to come up with this project for today. I'm not sure where the inspiration, well, I know where the inspiration came from for the broccoli, but the inspiration to make a tote bag with broccoli on gave me a nice break from the hand quilting of the Kaffe Fassett quilt and a little bit of instant gratification. I tend to be a person who loves finishing things, and when something takes days or weeks rather than just a couple of hours, I get a little bit impatient. So as usual, I'm going to start sewing at this seam here, go down, start over, go back to over here, go down, go across the bottom. And then for the lining, I will go down and down and then sew part of this, but leave a turning gap. It's going to have to be a fairly sizable gap, I think, because this is a lot of denim to go through it. And I'm just using a 3/8 of an inch seam because it's just so easy. You just got to line your fabric up at the edge of your foot. The two things I have to remember when I'm doing my lining, well, one's pertinent for the lining, the other one's pertinent for the bobbin. because I know I'm getting low on bobbin thread, and I know it's going to take me by surprise if I don't keep checking that I'm actually sewing. But for the lining, I like to go a little bigger on the lining seam allowance so that it sits inside the outer a little bit less baggily. So I do a little inch or so here, and then I'm just going to veer out a bit. Just by about, I don't know, eighth of an inch, a couple of millimeters. Oh, I felt it pulling. There you go. There's my bobbin. Gone. Yep. My bobbin foo is working well today because I knew it was going to happen any minute. Bobbin has been done. Unfortunately, I got really close to the end of that spool on the top of the machine. I was hoping that this bit was going to end up on the bobbin, but the bobbin got too full and stopped winding. And now I've got this just annoying few meters left on here. Ugh. Never mind. Back to work. So there's my turning gap right there. And I'm going to think ahead this time, and I am going to fold the seam allowances back and press them here, because it will make it so much easier. And I just hit the camera again, sorry about that. It's going to make it so much easier when it comes to turn the bag through, close up the gap. Done, done, done. Time to box the bottom. Now, because of the bulk of this, actually, it's easier to nest the seams if I do one left, one right. Yeah, I'm going to do it like that. So much easier to make sure they are matching up. Like that. And then I want to make sure that if this one's facing this way, then that one needs to face this way too. Get it right, Nicola? Yes, I want that bottom seam to sit flat. Just to be contrary. Just to show you there's never just one way to do something, I'm going to leave that with my seam allowances pressed out. Now, while I'm remembering, I am going to press this open before I turn it through. So I'm going to do that now, otherwise I'll probably forget. Time to just zip across these corners. This is always a fun part to do because you know you're nearly done. So one of the things you can do when you're boxing the bottoms, especially with a heavy fabric or something that's going to be taking a lot of weight, is you can definitely go over that seam a couple extra times. I didn't. I think it's going to be fine. The other thing I didn't do was go over the webbing extra times, but it's going to have its basting, it's got its seam, and it's also going to have some top stitching. Having said that, I don't know if the top stitching is going to hit the webbing. It depends if I've let it stick out of the seam well enough. And this is my favourite part. Oh, and there's my little broccoli peeking its little eyes out, making me happy. So my seams matched pretty well there, and also there. which I'm very pleased with. Yep. That one's about 1 millimeter off, but no big deal. Before I sew up my lining hole, I like to make sure that this part of the seam allowance is opened out. And then I fold this down like so. And some top stitching. This is often my least favourite part because it's always so visible, and if my machine decides to hitch over the bulky seams, it doesn't look that great. Moment of truth. A little wavy there. Got to make sure that lining stays out of the way. Sometimes you get a big pleat in there because the lining was sticking up, and then you've got to go unpick it and do it all again. Oh, it looks good. I did notice a few threads sticking out of the top here though. I'm using a teal thread. I actually find teal looks really good on denim. Pretty much disappears. Sometimes that's what you want. Having a bright top stitching is fun, but boy does it show all of the wobbles and hitches. Yeah, some nice seam matching on here too, Nicola. Well done. Doesn't matter so much with the lining, of course. Back to 2.8. And now for the final ta-da. Got a little bit of a crease on that denim, which was there when I started. So maybe I'll just heat my iron up and give it one last blast of steam. Oh yeah, there we have it. I bet you that would work great for a phone, as long as it's not one of those giant ones. It would work for mine, because it's older. Yeah, I like I've got the pink. Makes for a nice touch. And then we've got the inside pocket, or pockets really. Yeah. Happy with that. Was that fun or what? I've made those bags so many times and they're so easy. And I like to just, play around with the idea, just zhuzh them up a little bit, maybe add something a bit different to some of them. Sometimes I add a little key fob thing around one of the handles so that you can clip your keys to them. Sometimes I add pockets on both sides on the inside. But today the broccoli patch took quite a lot of time. And so having done that, I wasn't going to mess around with the bag and make it super fancy. But I just love how the broccoli looks. I went on Pinterest and I looked for graphic art broccoli is what I looked. I don't go on Pinterest very often, but thankfully I found some good ideas and some good inspiration. So in the end, I hand drew a broccoli head with the stalks and the different clumps. And as you saw, cut all the bits up separately, allowing a little extra for when I needed to overlap those pieces at the back. And use some heat and bond, did some satin stitching around the outside. And yeah, a little face with its fabric pen, eyes and mouth and cheeks, and then the little dots of white for its pupils. I didn't know it was going to come out that well, so I'm really pleased with that. Yeah. Awesome. So hopefully she'll like it. I'll probably mail it to her. I'll be seeing her at the festival in September, but I might mail it to her ahead of that time. It shouldn't cost too much. She's in the same province, so it should be fine. All right, let me show you the quilt. You won't be able to see much of the hand stitching stitches because they're fairly subtle, but I don't think I've shown you the back yet. It's kind of big. So here's the back of the quilt. I pulled out my batiks. I got a massive piece of this one, which I think is lovely with its earthy colors, and that sort of reddish brown with a turquoisey blue just is such a beautiful combination. So that was the biggest bit, but it wasn't quite large enough for the whole thing. So I ended up using some strips of other fabrics, other batiks, around the edge. And some of that obviously will be trimmed off because it's bigger than the actual quilt top. And let's go to the other side. I had a little bit of an aha moment the other day. I thought frequently we do these backings and batting bigger and then trim it off to bind. And I thought, wouldn't it be sensible to make the backing big enough so that when you trim the edges off, it's wide enough for your binding, so you don't then have to cut extra fabric. That's if you want the binding to look like this, of course, because it would be a little bit interesting, shall we say, with these fabrics. So there's all my lovely Kaffe fabrics. Now, I finished sewing or quilting all of the yellow-orange circles in a spiral with orange thread. And then I started going in a straight line. Where did I start? In purple thread. So my purple lines are about 1/4 of an inch away from the seam so that I'm not sewing through the bulkiest part. I thought if I went stitching in the ditch, I'd end up struggling with a needle. So there it is. Let me see if I can show you a bit more. But those fabrics are just so lovely. I'm loving it so far. I love the feel of a sandwiched quilt. When it's in this state and it's got a little bit of cushiness to it, and yeah, it just feels so nice. I think I have probably about, so I have 11 straight rows one way and 11 straight rows the other way to do. I think I've got 5 left to do the first way. And when I've done all of those horizontals, I'll turn the quilt and then I'll do the other way. So there's a cross hatching. And of course, when I get to a yellow circle, I just fasten off my thread and I start again on the other side of the circle. And I'm being a good girl and actually burying my knots inside the layers. Oh, amazing. I don't always do what I'm supposed to do. Sometimes I'm just slapdash. So what else have I been doing? Well, reading library books, buying a few clearance things at Michael's, and apparently adding to my collection of quilting arts magazines. That was being enabled by my friend Annette. She obviously found a lot for sale somewhere. She got a whole pile of them for like $20. And she came over the other day. I had a coffee morning. Some of my friends, she came over and she brought me a whole pile of them. So the first fun thing is fabric. Yeah. When I was at work the other day, there was a clearance bin of fabric bolts and they were just all higgledy-piggledy, like someone had just taken them all out and thrown them back in any old how, which is probably what happened. And nobody had tidied it. And I was just like, I cannot stand looking at that for one more minute. So I took everything out, wrapped all the fabric nicely, put the little metal clips on and made a lovely straight, neat row of them. But of course, I was looking at these clearance fabrics that were $5 a meter and I couldn't resist a couple of them. One of them is a Dr. Seuss. Oh, the places you'll go. And I don't know, I think because I've got those Dr. Seuss magazines that I've been using in some of my journals and things like that, it just called to me. So I got 0.6 of a meter. So it was $3 for that piece. And the same with this one. I love Hello Kitty. So I couldn't really resist this one too. It's got all the Hello Kitty friends as well. And rainbows. So $6 plus a little bit of tax. And that's something else to go in the stash. I also fell for a couple of other things that were on clearance last week. There was a whole bunch of these doll pins. They call them doll pins. They're old-fashioned clothes pegs. Pegs if you're in Britain, right? Clothes pins if you're in North America. And there are 24 in here, and I think I got them for $3, something like that. And then I also grabbed some rainbow-coloured standard sort of clothespins, you know, the ones that clip. And there's 18 of them in there. So that was super cheap. Let me just open that. Is there an easy way to open it? Yes, I could use scissors. How's that for an easy way? Yeah, these are my thread snipping scissors. Not ideal. Let's see if I can grab some out of there. I don't know what I'm going to use these ones for, but every now and again, you know, I get crafty and I want to have something like that. If you were with me in November last year, I did a whole month of daily crafting and I called it Slowvember. I just made it up. It wasn't something I jumped on somebody's bandwagon with. It was just my own idea. And that was so fun. I did a whole bunch of cards up ahead of time so that I didn't have to rack my brains each day to figure out what I was going to do. And I picked one at random each day. So yeah, as I say, classic clothespins or pegs. Pre-coloured for fun. And these old-fashioned ones, these are good for scrolls. You do slow-stitched scrolls, of which I have made a few. They're handy to have. And the other thing I grabbed was this. Now, they call it a wood sorting tray. I suppose you could put beads in it, maybe, or something like that. But You could just paint it as a rainbow and stick it on a wall or a shelf, couldn't you? I did wonder whether to maybe buy some inexpensive beads and just paint the whole thing, maybe light blue, and then put the rainbow colored beads into each stripe. That would be fun. At the moment, though, it's just been sitting on my cubby shelf up there, waiting for me to get to it. I need to do more crafty stuff. And then yesterday I grabbed this. This is a rather nice zippered pouch. It's I never know how to say this. I think it's sizer. It could be scissor. It could be a play on the word scissors. But there were some freebies on the desk in the break room yesterday. So I grabbed that. And I also grabbed a pack of 3 Cricut pens. Now, if you know Cricut, you'll know Cricut anything is expensive. I don't have a Cricut, but in my opinion, who can't use some permanent pens in neutral colors? Why not? They were free. And of course, this was in my favorite color, so I couldn't resist it. Library books. We haven't talked about library books for a while. I have read some good novels lately. Can I remember what they were? No. as soon as I finish with them, they go out of my head. The only one I remember is a Val McDermid one. I love Val McDermid. She writes so well. Anyway, I got some craft ones out. This one was called Let's Move the Needle. It's by Shannon Downey, and she has written a really, really comprehensive book about activism or craftivism. There's not a lot about actual crafts in here. There's a lot of photographs as part of the book of messages that look like they've been embroidered or cross-stitched. But the main thrust of this book is how to get a committee and a working party and an action group together to put into practice what your values are. So in other words, say you want to do a beach cleanup. She's got all the steps in there, how to round up people, how to be organized, how to get it done. And yeah, that applies to basically any good deed that you want to do. You could read this book and it would help you with a step-by-step plan on how to get there. So that was cool. This one, this is massive. It's called Hoopla, The Art of Unexpected Embroidery. And there is some crazy stuff in here. Not so much crazy, but actually very, very creative. Trying to find something I can show you. Oh, embroidered handkerchiefs with microbes embroidered on them. And what's this? An oxytocin thing. What do they call that? Structure? Molecular structure? I don't know. I never was that keen on science. There's an embroidered clock. There's all sorts in here. So that was quite fun to flick through. And then this one, very inspiring, 1000 Artists Books by Sandra Salamini with Peter and Donna Thomas. And they are just pictures. There's no how-to in there, but there's just pictures. And I'll just show you this page. So this page here just happens to have a little fold-out book where the front and back covers are buttons, and there are teeny tiny pages, and when it closes up, it just looks like a little button sandwich. And the funny thing is, I think it was Bronwyn, who I think is the same Bronwyn who has commented on my videos. She is also on Cool Kooky Creatures Facebook group, and she made one just like it. And I said, I'm going to be making one of those. I have to make one of those because I've seen it in this book. This is the book I was talking about. Awesome. But yeah, this is insane. Like, a lot of the things in here, you wouldn't even know they were books because they are so off the wall. And there's things where you can open something and it comes out with this big fold out thing, or there's books with bits cut out of the middle and something else inserted in the middle. There's even what looks like a bra, a paper bra, and it's a book. Crazy. So it's very, very inspiring. And in fact, just today, totally coincidentally, my friend Annette messaged me and she wants to make a concertina book. And so we're going to have a little crafty session next week, make a concertina book together. Well, make one each. We'll probably make more than one each. Knowing us, we'll probably go mad and spend the whole day playing with paper and glue. But that's awesome. And then also from the library, 3 quilting arts magazines. I love quilting arts magazines. These are the newest ones from this year. And I much prefer these now to the basic standard quilt book. I'm not in their league. This is why I'm making a basic standard quilt with just squares and circles. But I do prefer looking at arty-farty quilts as compared to standard, been done a million times before quilts. Even if I'm not quite at the stage of needing or being able to do them myself. So this is the stack of Quilting Arts magazines that Annette gave me. Oh, I think there's 20 of them there. Heavy as heck. So I am going to have a lovely time looking through those. A lovely time indeed. So I hope you've been having a good week. It's still smoky here. I must say I am craving a blue sky and I'm also craving rain. And I know those things don't normally go together, so they're going to have to alternate, but I'm so desperate for the smoke to go away. Oh yeah, the festival that I was helping with the donations in Victoria happened last weekend, so that's now behind me. 2 down, 1 to go. There's one in my city in September, and so I have about a month, and I need to get a whole bunch more emails sent out. But unfortunately, because I am somewhat inept at spreadsheets, I have had to ask someone else for help on how to get some information out of the spreadsheet to separate it out so I'm not duplicating a whole bunch of stuff and sending emails to people in the wrong place. So when she gets back to me, I can get on with that. And then there'll probably be a whole bunch of driving around, picking up donations and doing all that sort of thing. But that's the stuff I'm good at. Talking to people and picking up donations, I can do. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you. And I love getting comments. I do try and reply to every single one. So I'll see you again, probably same time next week with something else. Bye for now.